Okay, so I gave you all about 10, 11 minutes for that one. By the way, I don't ever recommend necessarily timing individual games to the 8-minute, 45-second time constraint, but I do want to, of course, have enough time to cover this game and some other stuff too, so we have to have some limits here. It's a pretty hard one. I mean, logic games are not in a perfect order of difficulty, but there is a general order of difficulty. So the fourth game probably won't be the easiest. The first one probably won't be the hardest. Is it ordering or grouping? Let's just start there. Grouping, perfect. The centers are not really in order. There's no before-after component to it. So we're grouping them. Yeah, exactly. We're taking the 5 materials, putting them into the centers. So you could do it this way. Whether you do it horizontal or vertical, I don't think it really matters, honestly. It's really up to you. We have a minimum of 2, and we have the 5 materials. So I list the 5 materials. I make a diagram where we will place the materials into the diagram. We have at least 2, but no more than 3. So we can make a hard line here where maybe we will have 1 more above. We have the rules indented. Any center with wood also has newsprint. So we could say if wood, then wood and newsprint are together. We have anything at 2 is also at 1. So I'll just draw a little arrow. Anything from the second center will go on to the first as well. We have only 1 center with plastic, and plastic and glass can never go together. So those are all just the fundamental rules laid out. No real inferences yet. Did anyone make any inferences for this game? Any connections between the rules? Well, we've got only 1 plastic, right? And we know that anything at 2 is also going to be at 1. So anything at 2 repeats onto 1. So, thoughts? Perfect, yeah, you all got it. So there's no plastics at 2. Plastic could be on 1, could be on 3. We don't know, but it's definitely not going to be on 2. And of course, glass and plastic cannot go together, so those interact as well. But that's pretty much all I would do up front for this game. Not a ton in the way of inferences, which means we will probably be drawing more over the course of the game. First question, number 18, is a typical orientation question where you just want to take 1 rule at a time and apply it to all 5 choices, checking for violations. It's much more efficient to do it this way than to take 1 choice at a time and apply all the rules to that choice. Because then you're cycling through all the rules again and again and again. So let's just take 1 rule at a time and go through all 5. So let's take, for example, just the first rule. If you have W, then you have Wn in the same category, in the same center. What can we eliminate based on that? So let's look for cases where we have wood, but no newsprint. Perfect. A has center 3 with wood, no newsprint, so A is out. Any others? No, no others. Typically, you'll be able to eliminate 1 choice with each rule. They won't give you that many eliminations based on 1 rule alone. They want to force you to cycle through all the rules, which I think is okay because it's a good warm-up that way. Next, anything at 2 is also at 1. What can we eliminate based on that? Perfect. C has G and T on 2, but G and W on 1. So C is out. Anything else? No, once again, nothing else. How about the next rule? Only 1 plastic. E, perfect. E has 2 plastics, so that's out. And we have 1 rule remaining, 1 wrong answer remaining. P and G can't be together. What can we eliminate? D, perfect. So by elimination, B is our answer. And that's how you want to work through an orientation question, just 1 rule at a time by elimination. So that's 18. Number 19. Somebody already said this, actually. We can't have plastic on 2, right? So plastic is left to be on 1 or 3. And it really is as simple as that. You could just pick D and move on. If you wanted to and you weren't totally confident, you could skip number 19 and come back to it later, because by then you would have drawn more valid scenarios that could give you cases where you've proven that plastic could be on 1 or 3. And by the way, we also have our correct answer for number 18 to help us out here. 18B has plastic on 3, and we know that works. So any choice for number 19 that does not list center 3 is automatically out. So you would be able to eliminate off the bat A and C, even if you didn't know anything else at all. But then, of course, we know just by intuition that plastic on 2 works, plastic on 1 and 3 works, and we can always come back to it at the end if we want to confirm that. Number 20, if center 2 has 3 kinds of material, what must center 3 have? So we're saying that for this one specifically, we're going to have all 3 on center 2. What's going to happen as a result?
Plastic has to be in 3 because if it's in 2, it would be in 1.
Yeah, perfect. Awesome. Yeah, you got it. Exactly right. So plastic will have to go on 3. The reason is that if center 2 has 3 types, center 1 will also have 3 types. And as a result, they're going to be identical. Centers 2 and 1 will have to be the same because you have 3 on both. So you're going to end up having G on 2, G on 1, plastic on 3, and that's all we need to know. That gives us number 20. You don't have to draw out the entire scenario fully. There's way too much ambiguity to bother doing that anyway. We only have to go as far as we need to solve the question, and they tell us plastic on 3 works. So excellent job. That was C is our answer for number 20. Number 21 now, if each center has 3 kinds of material. So now they're saying that not only do 1 and 2 have all 3, but now all 3 of them have all 3. So all 3 centers have 3 materials each. So what can we infer from this? Just like previously, we're going to once again have glass on 2 and 1 and plastic on 3. There's no other way to do it, because if you put plastic on 1 or 2, it'll be on both 1 and 2, because if you have 3 materials on 2, those same 3 will be on 1, so 1 and 2 will be identical. What that means is you have GGP on 1, 2, and 3 right off the bat. Now remaining, we have T, W, and N left to play around with. But we know that W requires W and N to be together, so you're never going to have T and W in any of these 2 remaining slots. You're always going to have N and then one of T and W left to place. T and W can't be the only 2 because, again, W requires W, N together. So you'll have N, then T or W on 1, T or W on 2, T or W on 3. But that's really enough. We don't have to flesh out specifically what happens on that top level there. We can simply run through the choices once again. So looking at this one, anyone have thoughts? Well, we're figuring that out right now. So we have G on 1, G on 2, P on 3, and on all 3 of them. Work by elimination. Could center 2 have glass? As the only one? No, correct. Perfect. Center 2 is not the only one with glass because glass is on both 1 and 2. Only center 3 with newsprint. No, newsprint is on all 3 once again. Only center 1 with plastic. That's not even happening at all, period. Only center 3 with tin. Could that happen? Yeah. That would be fine. So D is our answer for this one. And then just to be thorough, we could look at E. Only 1 with wood. Why not? Because whatever's on 2 is also on 1. So if you could have TTW or WWT, but you're not going to have WT or TW. Because 2 and 1 are always going to be the same if they both have 3. So it's D for number 21. Then on to 22.
Could you quickly explain how come all of them have
No, it's an inference that I made because we know that. I'll take a step back for a second. So all three centers have three different materials each, is the constraint of this question. So we know that it's going to be GGP because you only have one plastic and 2 and 1 repeat. We also know that anything on 2 is going to be on 1. So if all three of them have 3, that means that 2 and 1 are going to be identical. Now, we have T, W, and N left to place, but W requires W and N. So you could never have W and T. That just would not work. So as a result, how do you avoid that? You either have W and N or T and N. But either way, you're going to have N there no matter what. So I just said, let's say we're going to have N on all three of these, and then we'll put essentially T/W in the remaining. All right, so that was 21. Now we are on to 22, which is going to be a little bit different. If center 3 has glass, so if center 3 has glass, what can we infer? Where's plastic going? Perfect. Now as for this, what are we going to have here on 2? We're not going to have plastic. We're not going to have glass because glass on 2 would mean glass is also on 1, and P and G conflict. So once again, we're left to these 3, T, W, and N. But we know we're not going to have T and W together as the only 2, which means we're going to have N automatically. And then we will have T, W, or both. But N is a given. We could say we'll have W or T there, and maybe another one as well. We don't know, but again, they repeat. So what that means is that you would actually have N here, N there, TW there, TW there. So actually, this is the limit. But we don't really need to go any further. We have our answer. We don't need to draw more than is necessary. We learned N will be on 2 no matter what. That is a must, giving us B. Any questions on that one? Yeah? Yeah, sure. Plastic is never on 2, period. That's a general inference for the entire game because anything that's on 2 must also be on 1, and our initial rule says there's only 1 plastic. So if you put plastic on 2, you'd have to have it on 1, and that's having 2 plastics already, violating that rule. So that's 22. Then finally, 23, the last one. If center 1 is the only center with wood, so wood is on 1, it's not going to be on 2, it's not going to be on 3. What happens as a result? Well, W requires WN, right? So we're going to have N there. We can't have plastic on 2 as a given. And we also know that 2 repeats onto 1. So we automatically face this limit where anything here going to be there. We can't have 3 things on 2, of course, because then we'd have 4 things on 1 since W is only going to be on 1 specifically. So we could say as a result here that who's our most easygoing variable that we've seen popping up again and again and again? It's N, right? N's going to have to go on 2 as a given because we're going to have the things here repeating over there, and W's out of the running and P's out of the running. We have left N, T, and G left to place. But G has to go somewhere, and it's going to have to go on 2 and on 1 as well. The reason it's going to have to go on those places is that if it didn't, we'd have nowhere else left to put it. We're not going to have P there. We're not going to have P on 1, we're going to have P on 3. So this repeats over there. Since W is only here, we're not going to have it on 2 as well, which means that these two guys have to go there as well. Any questions on this one? You all good? All right, so this is everything that we infer as a result of this. The only variable that we have not yet placed is T. So T has to go somewhere. Where is it going to go? 3, perfect. And that's it. So they ask us, what could be a complete and accurate list of what's happening within one center? Well, it's pretty limited, right? It's one of these, or this. And so we get a hit right away with choice A, P and T on 3. So that's the game. It's not the easiest game for sure, but it is doable. You just take these limited rules plus the arrow and just apply them again and again and again.